guys, welcome back to my channel. For today's tutorial, I am going to walk you through how to make this really chunky, oversized hooded sweater. This is actually a remake of one of my videos I already have up. And I believe it's at like 1.2 million views right now, and it is also one of my most hated videos because of how chaotic it was. So I am refilming it, and I honestly understand because it was chaotic. My kids were making noise, the cats were in and out of the frames, and I ended up switching up the pattern halfway through the video, which I understand is really frustrating if you're gonna spend time and money on yarn to make something. So I formally apologize, and this is my apology, is by releasing the new and improved pattern. So this is super chunky, really warm. I kept it cropped so it's still wearable because it is really heavy, but the sleeves are pretty oversized. The hood is also very oversized. I do have the written pattern available on my Patreon. Please check the links in my bio because I have every pattern I've ever written available as soon as you become a subscriber, and you can cancel anytime you want. It is a monthly subscription. And I appreciate everyone who supports my art. I don't normally write out my patterns, which is why I offer that as a paid supplement if you want to support. So yeah, thanks for watching. Let's go ahead and get into the tutorial.
To get started on this project, I'm going to be taking the Paintbox Yarns Simply Super Chunky yarn. This is a super bulky weight 6. I'm going to be making a baggy size small or a regular size medium. So I end up using a total of 16 balls of yarn, and I will link where I buy these from. They are $5 a roll, but they're usually on sale for $3 a roll, so I'll leave all of that information down below. But to get started, I'm going to begin on the sleeve. I also forgot to mention I'm using a 8mm crochet hook, and then I'm just going to make my slip knot, and then I'm going to begin with the chain of 43. This is going to be one side of your sleeve that goes all the way from your wrist up to your armpit. So this is where you would make a change if you want to have an even baggier sleeve or a smaller sleeve. Just make sure it's an even number. So I'm gonna get started. So now I have made a chain of 43. I'm going to get started on the pattern. So I am just going to prepare for a double crochet, and then I'm going to skip over this first chain that's connected to my hook, and I'm going to go in the chain after. So I'm going to place my hook through the second chain, and I'm going to yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, then yarn over, pull through 2. So that's going to be a double crochet. And then I'm going to be placing 1 double crochet in each chain going back down the row. So now I've made it all the way to the end of the row with double crochet. I'm just going to chain 2 to bring up the work. So then to get started, we will be ignoring this very first chain connected to the chain 2 because that counts as our first double crochet. And then for the remainder of the row, I am going to be working in the back loops only. So normally we would just go through this entire chain, which is these 2. But since I'm going to only be working the back loop, it helps to just flip your work forward and then just locate that back loop right there. So we are again going to be doing a row of double crochet. So I'm going to wrap the yarn around the hook, flip my work forward, locate that back loop, place my double crochet, and then again wrap the yarn around the hook, go through that next chain, back loop only. So this is going to give us a faux knit look. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue the remainder of the row, 1 double crochet per back loop only. So now I've made it to the end of my row 2. I'm just going to chain 2, flip over the work, And then we're basically just going to repeat that last row for a total of 19 rows. So we are basically going to just be crocheting all the way around your arm. So you can make this as baggy or as skinny as you would like it to hang on your arm. It really will not affect the pattern at all, but for my size, I am going to do 19 rows. So just go ahead and finish that off. We are going to be making 2 of these, so that's what I'm going to be working on now, and I will be back to show you the front panels and the back panels. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish this. Don't forget, only be working through the back loops.
Okay, so I finished both sleeves. Now I'm gonna get started on the front panel. So we are gonna break up the front into 2 sides. So to get started, I am gonna do a slip knot, and I'm gonna chain a total of 34. Again, this is for my size. You are able to continue this chain for as long as you want. This is basically going to be the length of the sweater, so it's going to be slightly cropped for mine. So if you want it to be longer than a cropped sweater, you can continue this for as long as you want. It will not affect the outcome of the sweater. So I'm just going to chain 34. Okay, so now that I've chained 34, I'm going to basically continue the same pattern as the sleeve. So I'm going to skip that next chain in the row and place a double crochet in the chain after, and then I'm going to place 1 double crochet in each chain going back down the row. Okay, now I have done the entire row in double crochet. I'm at the end. I'm just going to chain 2 to bring up the work, flip it over, and then we're going to be skipping this first chain that's attached to the chain 2. That counts as the double crochet. And then repeating the same process as we did for the sleeves, I am going to be crocheting in the back loops only. So I'm going to place 1 double crochet in that very next chain, back loop only, and I'm going to place 1 double crochet per back loop for the remainder of this row. So for this portion of the front panel, we're basically going to be carving out the shoulder first. So I am going to be doing a total of 5 rows with this length, and then I'm going to chain off to start the hood. So you can just go ahead, repeat the same process that we did for the sleeve, of just placing 1 double crochet per back loop only. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a total of 5 rows, and then I'll be back to show you what's next. So I thought I'd show you how I'm reattaching my yarn. There are kind of 2 options here. Honestly, for my project, I don't mind if my knot is in the middle of the work because I'll just weave it in. It's so chunky. It's kind of hard to see, but if you really want a perfectly seamless look, you do have the option when you notice you're going to run out in the middle of the row. You can just stop at the very beginning of the row and reattach your new yarn on the very edge, and then you won't have any knots in the middle of your row. I want to use up as much of the yarn as possible because this is such a large project. I don't want to waste half a row of yarn, but it is up to you which one you prefer to do. So as you can see, I'll just leave the knot at the top of the row and then just continue working, and then at the end you can just weave in these little bits into the work. So that is how I am reattaching new yarn. So yeah, I believe I'm on my 5th row. So once I get to the end, I will show you what's next for the hood. Okay, so now I have finished with 5 rows. This is the shoulder. So for whatever reason, if you need this portion to be longer, just continue for as many rows as you need. It will not affect the pattern if you want to make it slightly more oversized and more baggy. So
I've hit 5 rows. I am going to be chaining off, and then this is where we begin the hood. So I want a seamless hood from the front, so there's not going to be any seam line across where the hood begins. It's just going to go from the very front straight into the hood, and I just love that look so much, and this is the way I figured out how to make that seamless. So the hood for my size is already extremely oversized, so I'm pretty sure this will be perfectly fine for any size. I'm going to just simply chain a total of 34 off of the body. Okay, so now that I have 34, I am just going to flip it over, and I'm going to start working my way back down to the front body portion. So just quickly make sure that your chain isn't twisted at all. And then once you make sure it's not twisted, just skip over that very next chain going back down and place 1 double crochet in the chain after it. So I'm just going to be placing 1 double crochet in each chain, making my way back down to the body, and then just continuing straight back onto the body. So I will come back once I've reached the end of this chain off for the hood. Okay, so now I have finished crocheting double crochets down the hood portion. I've reached where the body begins, and I am just going to be continuing the same pattern of working in the back loops only. So I'm on that first chain of the body portion. I'm just gonna work directly into the back loop only with a double crochet, and then just continue the usual pattern down to the end. So now that we have this hood portion established, on the next row on your way back up, you will just continue all the way up through the back loops only of the hood as well. So I hope that makes sense. I am going to be doing a total of 8 rows, and this is going to finish off the front of the hood. This counts as the first row. So I'm just going to finish off this and then do 7 more rows of just double crochet into the back loop only. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish that, and then I'll come back and let you know what's next. Okay, so now I've finished the first panel. So now I've finished the first panel for the front. I am going to be reattaching the yarn to the corner where the shoulder and the hood meet. So I'm going to reattach right here. I am going to be continuing the hood pattern straight off of the front panel, just so it's seamless. And then this chain is where the hood lifts off. So I'm just going to pick that chain to reattach my yarn. And then we are going to be working directly back onto the hood to create the back of the hood. Okay, now I'm just going to chain 2. This is going to count as the first double crochet for the row. We will be working into the back loops, so I'm going to go through that very next chain in the row. So I'm just going to place a double crochet, 1 for every chain. And then once I reach the end of the row, I am going to be doing a decrease in the last 2 chains of the row. So stop 2 chains before the end. Okay, I've made my way to the end of the hood. There are 2 chains left. You can tell because there are 2 double crochets in the row beneath left. I am going to be doing kind of a fake decrease for the end of this row. I'm just going to skip over to that very last chain of the row and place 1 double crochet. So you are technically skipping the second to last chain of this row. Now I'm just going to chain 2, flip over the work. We're going to be working back down the hood. I will be decreasing in the first 2 chains of the row, so I'm going to ignore the chain that's connected to my chain 2,
through the back loop only, going through that very next chain, yarn over, pull through 2, then directly back into the very next chain, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2. That combines 2 chains into 1 double crochet. Now I'm just going to make my way back down, placing 1 double crochet in each of the back loops for the remainder of the row. Okay, so now I've made my way to the very end. I'm just crocheting the hood portion. Just keep that in mind. Just chain 2, flip over your work. I'll be placing 1 double crochet in every back chain until I reach the second to last chain of the row. We are going to be decreasing every single row at the top of the hood. So I am just going to make my way down. Okay, so I'm almost at the end of, I believe that's row 1, 2, 3. I'm at the end of row 3 of the hood. We're going to repeat row, that first row where we are decreasing, but we're just going to skip that second to last chain of the row, going straight into the very last chain of the row. And then chain 2, and then decrease in the first 2 chains. So we're gonna alternate between doing those 2 rows for a total of 7 rows. So from where you attached, you're gonna do 7 rows of that pattern, decreasing along the top of the hood only. So I hope that makes sense. I am just gonna get through these next 7 rows and then I'll be back to show you what's next. Okay, now I have finished the additional hood portion. As you can see, the top of the hood slowly decreases downward. So yeah, that's an additional 7 rows. And then so now you are gonna make the other side of the front. So once you're finished with this, then just attach and again do the additional 7 rows for the hood on this side. And once I finish with that, I'll be back to show you. We just need to do the back and then attach it all together. So I'm gonna finish up this side the same way I did the first one, and I'll be back. Okay, so I realized my video clip deleted, but I did finish all of the other panels. So let's see, got a lot of panels going on here. So I have 1 sleeve, 2 sleeves, then I have 1 front panel and the other front panel. So then I went ahead and started on the back panel. It's the same exact pattern as the sleeve. So we begin with a chain of 34. So this is going to be the cropped length again. So if you did increase the cropped length on the front panel, just make sure you do the same number of chains for the length going down. For me, that is 34 chains. And then I did a total of 23 rows of double crochet into the back loops. And as you can see, I still have some pieces I need to weave in. I'm going to start connecting them all together. Okay, so now I have the back panel on the back, and I have the, as you can kind of see, there's going to be a wrong side and a right side. It really doesn't matter either way, but if you're picky about what the front and the back looks like, just make sure that you like how the front looks, and the wrong side you can put on the inside. But even if you kind of switch it, it really doesn't make a difference. So I have not fastened off the last row of the back, but if you already have, it doesn't matter, you can just reattach. So I've lined up the 2 front panels on top of the back, and so that little square of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 5 rows is the shoulder, and then the hood portion hangs off a little bit longer. So make sure you line up both shoulders on the sides, And then I have one of the sleeves. It's not connected. The sleeve isn't connected together yet, but I have it just resting along the top of the shoulder going down. So there's a few ways that you can begin stitching this together. Honestly, in my opinion, there's no right or wrong way of which sections you start on first. You could start on the sleeve first and flip this inside out, stitch the sleeve together. You can start on the bottom of here, come up to the sleeve, and then stitch the length of the sleeve. I'm just gonna go ahead and stitch up the side of the bottom first. Just begin attaching the sleeve together to the body in a round, and then once I make my way, I'm gonna make my way up first, connect the back down, and then continue the whole stitch to finish off the sleeve. I'm just gonna do that because I already have a bunch of loose ends to weave in. I want to minimize the amount of times I'm cutting and reattaching the yarn, so I am just gonna try and make it in one stitch to get one whole side finished. I know that's a little bit lengthy of an explanation, but I do get a lot of questions about how I stitch things together. Just a reminder, I have the full written pattern on my Patreon walking you through how to stitch it together, but for a visual, this is as good as it's gonna get. For my size, I'm gonna stop up about halfway up the body before I begin attaching the sleeve to the body as well. So as you can see, attaching, it's pretty straightforward. I'm just going through one of the panels and then going through the other side, yarn over, pull through both panels, then yarn over, pull through two. So I just moved into my bedroom so that you can see it a little better instead of in my tiny crochet closet. So I have already stitched together this whole side and added the hem on the sleeve just to kind of cinch it in a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you the pattern I used for that. Yeah, and then this side is inside out. I haven't connected the hood yet, but I did make my way all the way around the side, all the way around the sleeve and down. Okay, so I finished all the way to the wrist of the sleeve. I am just gonna go chain one to bring up the yarn. I'm just gonna go straight into the side of the sleeve and just kind of evenly space out single crochets along the top. You are not gonna be crocheting into an actual chain, so you're gonna be making your own row of chains. So just do your best to not scrunch it up too much and not add too many. So I've made my way all the way around the wrist, and then once you get back to the beginning, you're gonna have kind of like a loose gap, which is totally fine. I'm gonna go into that very first chain of the row and then do a slip knot or a slip stitch, and then chain two. I am not gonna flip sides. I'm gonna continue working in the round. I'm gonna place one double crochet in that very first chain, back stitch only, or back loop only, one single crochet. And then in the next chain, double crochet. I said single, I meant double. One double crochet. In the chain after that, I'm gonna do a decrease. So I'm gonna yarn over, go through the back loop, yarn over, pull through two, directly into that very next back stitch, yarn over, pull through two, then pull through the last two. So then I'm gonna do, basically repeating that, a straightaway of 3 and then a decrease. So 1 double crochet in each of the next 3 back stitches only,
and then a decrease. I'm going to repeat that pattern until I make my way back to the beginning of the round. Okay, so now I've made my way back to the beginning of the round. I'm just going to go to the top of that chain 2 from the very beginning, and I'm going to place a slip stitch there to join the row together. And then I'm going to chain 1. This is going to be our last row, so I am going to flip it. So I'm not going in a round, I'm flipping it and going back down the opposite way. I'm just going to do a row of single crochet going through the front loops only. So normally we would work through that back loop, but I kind of want to keep the cool patterned line that you get from working in the back loop. I want to keep that line on the outside, so I will just be working through the front loop. This is completely optional. This is just part of the design that I want to achieve. So I'm just showing you what I'm doing for this. I'm just going to go through the front loop only with single crochet. I'm going to do a straightaway of 4 and then a decrease. So the decrease, I just place my hook through the front loop, yarn over, pull through, go through that next front loop, pull through all 3. And then a straightaway of 4 and a decrease, and repeat that till you make your way back to the beginning. I made my way back to the beginning. As you can see, it closes up the sleeve in a nice little bubble. It'll sit nicely on your wrist. I'm just gonna go through that very first chain of the row with a slip stitch. Okay, so now I have all of both sides of the sleeves attached. And then I went ahead and there was that little shoulder piece. I attached it from the inside as well with just a row of single crochet, and then I fastened off right here. And then this is where we attached the hood. So the other portion of the hood, you're gonna fold this up into the back and work your way along, making a seam of single crochet this side, both of these sides together, and make a seam up along here, and then continue the seam all the way to connect this together as well.
And then you are basically done with the project. I'm just gonna end the video here because I feel like it's long enough, but I really hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in my next video.